Michael's from Iran, and I want to hear a little bit about your childhood in Iran and your family, if we can start there.
Sure. So I was born in Iran, and back then Iran was a very pro kind of westernized country, very different than it is now. And I had a very great childhood, actually. All my memories are really positive. Tehran is like a ski area. People think it's desert, but it's actually very mountainous. And we used to go skiing every weekend and hiking. And my father had become really successful in his business. He had started a company with 2 or 3 people, and it had grown over time. So we had really a nice life. And suddenly everything changed. Dark clouds came, and there was a revolution, and we had to leave the country with losing almost everything we had in our family. And went from kind of white to black all of a sudden.
How many siblings do you have?
I have 2 siblings, older than me.
Let's get into this a little bit. I know it's a challenging subject for you, but I think it's fascinating. I think it's important for everybody to hear about it, if you're okay continuing.
Sure.
So in 1979, there's a revolution. What was going on politically? You said that Iran was a more westernized sort of culture.
Right.
And what happened in 1970? I know there was a big buildup to 1979, but ultimately when you and your family felt you needed to leave for safer harbors, tell us a little bit about that from a political standpoint.
Yeah, so before the revolution, the Shah was a leader, and Iran was great allies with the United States, with Israel. There were tons of Americans in Iran. Like half my teachers were Americans, actually, from the Peace Corps and so on. And then the Islamists began to rise. And unfortunately, I think the Western world didn't recognize that threat, especially the US. They kind of almost supported the Ayatollah Khomeini, who replaced the Shah. And they just, made a revolution, and suddenly everything was gone. The police, the judiciary, the companies, it was just like thugs in the streets for a while until, things got organized a little bit. And whoever was kind of doing well was able to get out. So in that time, in 79, there were probably around 2 million Iranians who actually moved to the United States. Most of them are actually in California now.
Very interesting.
Detroit are not Iranians. They're like Arabs and other. There's a lot of Muslims, but not so many Persians like we are here.
And you didn't initially come to the United States. Your parents thought maybe there was an opportunity to go back to Iran, and so you ended up in Paris for a little while?
Exactly. I mean, that's the only place we could go to at that time. So we moved to Paris, and then eventually were able to move to the US about 2 years after that.
Wonderful. So now you're here in the United States, and your parents find their home on the Upper East Side. Tell me and tell us a little bit about your initial thoughts and feelings as you arrived here in the United States.
Yeah, so that's there are a lot of funny stories, but I mean, the shocking thing for us actually was just the cultural differences here, especially like the violence. Like back then in the 1970s in New York, especially, you'd get mugged in the streets. They would like break into your car and steal your radio. Drugs, you'd walk and people would try to sell you drugs. I mean, these things were unheard of for us. So it was really a cultural shock, those things. But, you get used to them quickly, I guess.
Are you self-motivated, or were your parents a large influence on your focus, given what you were growing up in, new surroundings, violent surroundings, very different cultural surroundings? What kept you motivated educationally? Because we're going to get to that portion of the interview in just a moment.
I'm very self-motivated. In fact, my parents were kind of hands-off, so they didn't really interfere too much. So I was very self-motivated. But education was a big part of our family culture. So actually, my father, back in the early 1950s, from Iran, went to Germany to study engineering. And back then, that was like a really difficult thing to do. You had to travel. It would take weeks just to get there, and you didn't know the language. But when he came back, that's what really made him successful, because he was really smart at what he did. So that was kind of in our family, and that was really important for me and my children as well. So.
Wonderful. So your self-motivation led you to UPenn. Go ahead, Scott, you can clap. And did you go with any particular focus in mind, or did you have to figure it out once you were there? Tell everybody what you studied and what you were most interested in.
Yeah, so I studied engineering, mechanical engineering, because that was kind of my family thing. But then I realized that the money's more in finance and things like that. So I never worked as an engineer, and then I went to business school after that and got into finance.
And where was business school?
At the Stern School, excuse me, at NYU.
Wonderful. So now you're back in the city that you love, New York. You're at the Stern Business School. You did very well. You're still a young man. You get out, and then what?
So then I started as just an insurance agent, and in the bottom, and I would, just try to survive for a couple of years, and then I did kind of better and better. I became in the top 10% of MassMutual, then the top 1%. I started my own unit. I recruited and trained agents. At one point, I was the top 10 out of 8,000 agents. And the CEO of MassMutual then brought me on stage in a party in Prague and gave me an award. So, it took 10 years, but I got there.
That must have been very comfortable for you, knowing your personality.
And then, what else? Then I did a strategic partnership with a large property and casualty company in Long Island. They brought me in, gave me a staff and an office in their firm for the purpose of selling life insurance to their clients. So yeah, it's been a great ride. Yeah.
So clearly, Michael, you're a brilliant man. You were born with it, and you've worked extremely hard. But here in Chapter 1, we're always curious, or maybe I'm speaking for myself, but I believe I'm speaking for everyone. It's not just smarts that get you to where you are. So I'm curious, what were you doing in your mid-20s to outshine, outsell, outperform 7,990 people out of 8,000? What did you do? Give us a clue.
Yeah, so it's a long-term thing. So it's like one magic bullet, but and there's a lot of, I think, cliches that everybody does, and they're true. You've got to be persistent, smart, hardworking, so on. But I think in the final analysis, you have to genuinely care about your clients more than yourself. And when you do that, it comes through, and people want to do business with you and refer you, and it grows. But I think that's really the key.
That's beautiful. Speaking of beautiful, you're married.
Yes.
You have children. How did you meet your wife?
So that's actually a funny story. My wife and I were in second grade together in Iran. But then we separated, and I didn't even remember her. I didn't even know anything. So she
Don't
came.
tell her that.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna get there. But so then we have a mutual friend, and my wife now saw my picture, and she said, "Oh, I know this guy. I went to school with him when we were little." So my mutual friend called me and said, "Do you remember her?" I said, "No, I don't remember anyone from second grade." Words I remember to regret, But then we said, okay, we had a cup of coffee in New York, and we hit it off, and we fell in love, and we got married a couple of years later. So.
Beautiful. And what year was that?
We got married in 95, but we met like in 93. Yeah.
Well, you met in second grade.
No, but I'm not counting that. I don't remember that.
I got you. Beautiful. All right, so now we're going to get to life insurance a little bit. Tell us the one thing, or several things, that people that you come across don't really understand about the product of life insurance that you want to educate us all on today.
I think it's that, especially permanent life insurance isn't just like a protection like car insurance. It's actually an asset that should be part of almost everybody's portfolio. Just like we think of asset classes like stocks and bonds and real estate, life insurance as a place that is just as important because it's got huge tax advantages. It does have protection for death, even disability and long-term care. And it's not correlated to the market, just like Bitcoin and gold. So it makes it a really unique asset. that almost everybody should have in their portfolio. And a lot of people think it's just something to protect me in the short term.
Good advice, good advice. What is the one thing you'd most like to accomplish as a member of Chapter 1 in 2025?
So I'd like to have a very strong relationship and get to know everybody through one-to-ones better than I currently do, and have everyone trust me and really believe that I'm the best at what I do.
Well, you stole a little of my final thunder here, which is to, if you haven't had a one-to-one with Michael Arjomand, and I myself am included in not having that formal one-to-one with him other than the phone call we had the other night, this is a fascinating, brilliant, important person in our chapter that all of you need to get to know, whether you have life insurance already, or you're thinking about it, or you're squeamish, or whatever it is. Get to know this man. He's successful for a reason, and I'm privileged to have interviewed you. You're
Thank
off
you
the hot
so
seat.
much.
Thank you so much.